Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs, and today I will be taking a look at my custom Mezco Dracula vampire, something like that. This is original character design, just a lot of original sculpt, and this was super fun to make. I know I don't normally dive into horror, and that's mainly because I think I'm a little too good at it, and I don't want to just be a horror-centered channel or Instagram page or customizer, so I try to steer clear of that kind of stuff. Also, making too much scroopy stuff isn't good for the soul, you know? It's just not really healthy. So, but I did make a little exception for this guy, and that's mainly because the customer is a long-time returning customer, and he didn't end up liking the Nosferatu Mezco figure. I know a lot of people liked it. I personally felt like it was a little bit lackluster and just a little bit uninteresting. That's just me. I think a big gripe I had personally for Nosferatu is that his head sat so low on the neck, and I know that's the way like the 1920s character design was, or 1940s character design was, but still thought it just looked a little gross and just not very cool. Also has a very large head, but I'll talk about that later. I'll talk about how I sort of mitigated that. But this is the figure in all his glory. He's very, very tall. I'm going to do a size comparison real quick. I'm going to bring in the Cyberpunk Monk that I made. And I don't know which review is coming in first, so this might be a preview or it might not be. But he's basically the size of Mezco Gomez. And I know my lighting's a little bit off for him, so he looks like just a dark blob. But as you can see, the vampire stands a lot taller. Also, just the way he poses up, at least for the way I chose to design the custom, he stands sort of on his tippy toes, and so he actually does sort of need a stand on him at all times. He doesn't really freestand, which is, I know, a design flaw, but I think a passable design flaw for how he ends up standing and working out. So I'll get into all that later, and I'll get into why I made the choices I made for this guy. But as always, we're going to take a look at the accessories first. So I'm going to pull him off the little stand. I sort of have it doing that, you know, I was trying to do the crotch stand that like all the 1/6 Hot Toys come with. And so I was doing my best with that stand. So, you know, that's what we got. Also, Can of Beams, I believe, made this stand, and it's dope. So, you know, check him out. He makes cool stuff. I don't buy from him very often, mainly because I always tend to miss the pre-orders, but he does high quality work. So an issue with this also is that it's trying to focus on the characters, but because I have a white background and like relatively white skin tones, like very, very pale skin tones for everything, it's sort of yellowing the screen. So I'm sorry about that. I'm going to see if I can sort of brighten it. Maybe that'll help. I don't know what that'll do for my focus, or when I try to focus again, it'll make it all janky, but we'll see what happens. But hopefully that helps a little bit, so it's not like you're looking at an orange screen. But anyways, accessories, we're going to start with the heads first. There I have four all new head sculpts. The idea was I repurposed all three of the Nosferatu ones, and then I actually took an alien Neomorph head and repurposed that head as well to be more of a beast vampire. So let's look at them. The first one we have, and I'm pretty sure my lighting's gonna, oh, there we go, awesome, is like my Vlad Dracula head. This is from the calm Nosferatu head. He just sort of has his teeth in. He's a little bit blank, expressionless. I chose to use this as the Vlad head because he naturally has a little bit of a squinting look. The other two heads, as you'll see later, they're very like wide and bug-eyed almost. He looks like he's squinting a little bit, and so I thought this would be a good head for Vlad. He's sort of judging everyone and looking down on them. First of all, because he's tall, but also because he's like way better than them. And for this, I had to sculpt eyebrows as well as the mustache and beard. I was also thinking of going for like a classic Dracula slick back, but first of all, the shape of the head doesn't really account for that, and I didn't want to sand down and shave down on the head because I liked the skin texture. But also, if he had too much hair, it wouldn't make sense that his body's hairless. So leaving him bald, I guess thematically, makes a little bit more sense. Also, in general, you're going to notice that I don't highlight the veins on the head or on the body, and the reason to not highlight those was having the veins highlighted makes him look a little bit sickly. And while especially it would look cool on the body, having veins on a more tame head like Dracula just doesn't make sense. It's too beast-like. And so I wanted to sort of ride the line, especially since we have conversions with this character in terms of the different looks he has. Making something too beast-like and trying to also contrast it with something more civilized and more proper, it just wouldn't have worked out very well. So I just opted out. I just opted away from the veins for that reason. So we have the first head there. I really like it. Coming to our second head now, I'm calling this the Feral Rat Eater, and it is as disgusting as it sounds. Once again, this is why I don't do horror much. I think it looks creepy, but it was also really fun to paint. I'm not really sure if the depth of the skin tone is coming through on camera. It looks like it's just all matte white. Maybe if I get a closer look, you guys will be able to see the layers in there. It's hard. It's really hard. I think the camera and also my light is just whitening it out. But there's an undertone pink on all the heads, as well as a little bit of undertone skin tone, and you can, oh, there we go. You can kind of see it in there, just sort of in the cracks there. But yeah, I painted everything a light pink. I sprayed everything a light pink. And then I did a quick layer of a skin tone over that. And then after that, I sprayed it with white. And then also dry brushed some of the highlight and low light area, or dry brushed some of the highlight areas. So, whoa, you see the camera got really, really yellow there, like sort of yellowed and oranged out. There we go. Let's brighten it up. So yeah. So that's how that head, and that's how all the paint works out. For this guy, he had his, as you can see, he has sort of the bug eyes compared to the Vlad squinty eyes. And so I knew automatically, I was like, the wide eyes are going to be a little bit more beast-like. He's, this vampire is not thinking as clearly, a little bit more feral. And so then I was thinking, well, if he's a little bit more beast-like, what am I going for here? And I thought, well, he's a vampire, he's going to have a bloody mouth. And then I thought rat tail. Nosferatu already comes with rats in the set, and so I sculpted a little rat tail coming out of his mouth, and little trickle of blood there. Makes sense. He's like nomming down on a rat. And then since we're also going for the feral look, we kind of established with the Vlad head that he can grow hair, or has or used to have hair. But since he's sort of feral, sort of a little bit diseased, I ended up leaning towards just little tufts and patches of hair. And so this hair is painted the same way as Vlad, with deep black and then some white and gray highlights over it. So we got that. And by the way, just the eyes on these guys, I'm really, really fan of them. Just a super high gloss black. Just makes, and since they're bug-eyed, they just look very, very empty and deep, which is cool. And then I highlighted around the eyes, and I did it for all of the heads, but I highlighted around the eyes, just like the lids and stuff, with a little bit of pink, just to set it and make it feel a little bit more striking. I'm going to move on to my bat head, and then we'll go to the alien head that I repurposed. So this is another one of the Nosferatu heads, and this is the one that I did the most work on, and I think it really, really shows. And the reason why is because we wanted a full-on, like, bat head. And so what we have here is the final product. What I had to do is I had to cut off the nose and sculpt a new nose, and then also cut off the parts of the ears and sculpt new ears on. And I ended up opting out from painting the nose there because I was looking at bat noses, and as far as I could see with bat noses, you really don't like see the black holes as much as it just looks a little bit skin tone. So I just let it set off with a little bit of pink, and I think that looks pretty good since his skin's white. I didn't want to make him look like he had these giant, sort of gaping nostrils. So I decided just to let the natural shadow of the sculpt do the work for me. So obviously we had to sculpt all new ears. Also, I was able to keep the ears pretty thin overall. So yeah, there is a little bit of just, I couldn't smooth it all the way just for how thin the sculpt was. It just didn't work out that way, but I think it still is a very, very nice sculpt. It's very, very smooth transitions on the other side. And that's really ultimately more of what I had to care about when it came to this design. So when I was making the bat head, I was thinking about it, and first of all, trying to make two symmetrical ears like this is a pain. Trying to make one ear is a pain, just to get all the little curves of the ear, and the fact that the ear itself, as you can see as you look at it, it rotates around. You know, it's not just like straight up. It actually starts at one point and then it curves, as you can see, around. And so it sort of does this little like zigzag. And this ear alone took forever, and so I was like, well, I don't want to try to have to make another symmetrical one, because doing it was already a pain, but then trying to make it equal would have been even worse. So then I was thinking, well, what's a way that I can still make this character cool? And then I thought, well, he's a vampire, he's been alive forever, he must have been hunted at some point. And so I created some battle damage instead, and arguably this might have been more work, but I did a ton of scar tissue on the head, as well as made sort of a burnt and shriveled ear. And honestly, this was so fun to get into this type of detail. I mean, the nose, and having to sculpt the nose is its own amount of detail right there, as you can see, and just sort of matching the skin and matching the texture of the skin that already existed there. But then having to get all those sort of veiny layers as stuff is regrowing was really cool. And then for this ear, you know, this ear is a much lighter pink with some white highlights, but since this ear has been burnt and there's scar tissue, it sits with a much deeper pink and red. And then we can see that deeper pink and red that sits under the skin, and sort of the skin that's growing on top. You can, you know, it's sort of wrinkly and stuff, but you can see that it's white. And so his skin is sort of, you know, getting its pigment back. But because of the damage he's taken, around his eyes a little bit burned, and that eye's actually dead. And so I painted it. I actually mixed, sort of did a little custom mix between white and dark gray, and I just swirled it together. And so that when I painted the eye, there's a little bit of a marbly effect in the eye. I'm not sure if that comes across, but there's sort of like wisps of white and gray through it. And so it's not just a solid gray, which I think just adds some fun texture to the eyes overall. And then obviously that one's just pitch black. And then just painted the mouth, just red, just sponged red around, and then did it in a high gloss to really bring it out. And I love the, excuse me, I love the contrast in the face just between, you know, the pale white and just that really deep, strong, harsh red. So then coming to the final head, we have the alien Neomorph head that I repurposed. If you guys are familiar with the Neomorph, it has this whole like crest thing that runs back. The way the head works is, the top part of the head and like the crest are one piece, but then the bottom half of the crest, it sort of runs in like a lateral line, and then comes and dips under the jaw. So what I did was I heated it up with water, peeled that whole underpiece off, and then cut it to where I felt was like an appropriate line for the back of the head. And then I had to sculpt, sand, and smooth everything out so that it looks all even. And I think I did a pretty good job overall. You can see some of the angles, but in hand and with all the texturing, I think it's smoothed out pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with that. And once again, like the paint I did for everything else, it's pink skin tone and then white. And so, especially since he has these deep crevices in the head, you can really see the pink come out in there, and also sort of in the cheeks and stuff. And then it was just a matter of painting the inside of the mouth a deeper red, and sort of the outer gums a lighter pink, and then, you know, the teeth are in white and gloss. And then since the whole jaw and everything is all new because the whole back got ripped out, I had to sculpt a whole new ball peg piece. And once I sculpted the ball peg piece, I also sculpted wrinkles, like these neck wrinkles in the top and the bottom, so that it would have a little bit, you know, so that when you're looking at it from the sides, it looks more natural versus just having a ball peg sitting in there. So I think that worked out pretty well too. And for all the heads actually have new ball pegs. And I know they're not all the prettiest necessarily, or ball peg sockets, I should say. But that's so that they sit higher on the body. Like I was complaining, a little griping about before, I feel like the heads on the original Nosferatu body sit so low. He looks like this weird, stocky, hunchbackish kind of guy, and then he has these long limbs. It just, like, it's not even that it looks gross in a good way, it looks gross in a bad way, where it just feels disproportionate. So I opted to change that, and I extended the height of the heads. So now coming to the hands, They're painted in the same fashion as the heads were in terms of the layering of the skin tone colors, and then the nails are just done in black. And so just a really deep black in there. And I like that contrast. I was thinking of sort of following how Mezco did the original Nosferatu nails, where they added some sort of brown and some texturing over it. But I felt like this just looked a lot more elegant and also a little bit more sinister, just to have it these deep black glossy claws. And so all these hands have that paint to it. And then for his really splayed out crazy hands, I painted them with the white and skin tone, and then I took a sponge and I sponged it all in red through the hands. And a fun thing, like just talking about painting technique, you have to think about the action that the character is in. And when I was thinking about, if he's really attacking someone or something, or if he's he's sort of, his nails are all red, so he's definitely like digging in to something. Let's just say an animal. Let's not say a person, we'll say an animal to keep it PG. Actually, that's not PG anyways, whatever. But he's digging into something, right? His hands are going to be a little bit closed. If you've ever grabbed something wet and you have a semi-closed fist, or even a closed fist or like a semi-closed fist, the inside of your palm is going to stay a little bit drier. And so when I was sponging it, I made sure to leave those inner pieces of the palm clear. I know this one a little bit less so, but even so, I still left some open spots in the deepest areas so that it made sense for the action he was doing. So, just a little bit of odd detail for realism's sake. I think if you're painting yours, it doesn't really matter. You can soak the whole thing in red. It's totally up to you. But I was just thinking of how he would be moving and how it would be working. So coming to his other accessories now, I also gave him a Vlad Dracula cape. This is a Batman cape. Let me get the camera to focus. It's a Batman cape, but what I did was I cut holes in the top and ran a chain through it. And so because of that, the chain creates a little loophole. And so the way it works is you just take the Nosferatu neck and you just put the little chain over it, like so. I realize he's so tall for my camera, so I'm going to tilt him back. And then I can just bring the cloak over. And so he has that very Vlad look. But I know the cape bunches up just a little bit. So then what I did was I also gave him some fur. So move the stand. We have his fur right here, and this is pulled from an old Jon Snow figure. And then I painted it with some white and then some red splatter. Let me focus the camera so you guys can see it a little bit better. There we go. You can see there's red splatter on the fur. So that's pretty cool. I think it's got some really cool contrast. It feels very like pop art-ish almost, which is fun. But all I do is I just take the fur, I just slide it over the shoulders, and that helps hide the rest of the chain, as well as sort of, let me lift my camera up, hides the chain as well as the back of the cape. And so that also sort of helps with that Vlad Dracula look. So he's got that. And the other thing he has is wings. I'll install the wings on the figure later so you guys can get a look of what it's like, and take the cape and everything off first. But I'm going to just let you look at the wings so that you can really first appreciate the size and also the paint job on them. So these are the wings from the Sauron Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure, and they're huge, dude. These wings are huge. I didn't realize, I mean, I knew it was a Build-A-Figure, so I knew it was going to have big wings, but I didn't really notice and understand the scale of them up until I had them in hand. So what I did for these, and these were so time consuming, but I think ultimately they were worth it. So I had to sculpt these spikes in first. And so it was just sort of about making it look natural and sort of having the skin layer and rings around where the spike comes out with a little horn finger or something. But then also, he has scaly skin. Sauron's I don't know, very smart pterodactyl or something. I don't really know his background, but he's a pterodactyl. It looks like a dinosaur. But he's got this really scaly skin, and so what I actually had to end up doing was sanding and smoothing down all the scales on the arms, and then having to coat it in a thin layer of sculpt, texture it up a little bit, and I added some veins and stuff. And then after that, I was able to paint it. So both of these wings were super labor intensive, but I think they turned out really well. There's a lot of just layering of paint at different angles and stuff. And so obviously all the little bones are picked out in a little bit more white. And then the insides of the wings have both a sort of darker pink and then lighter pink high tones. And then if you angle them from the top, you can also see that I have some like yellowish skin tone in there as well, just to break it up. And so when you look at the wings from different angles, you start to see different colors pop out more, which is really cool. And I know I don't have a light to shine on it, but they do keep some of their transparency. I think you can see it a little bit there. Yeah, you can see my fingers pass under the wing just a little bit. That's pretty cool too. So yeah, and that's the way it is on both sides. What I ended up doing to plug them in to the vampire, it's just these holes in his back. I was trying to think of a more elegant way to do it, and I couldn't come up with a more elegant way just based on the size of these pegs. I needed them to be this size because the weight of the wing is really important, so I just ended up making really tight ports on the back of the vampire. But so you can really see him. I'm going to put his little bloody hands back on, and then I'll also put the bat head on. Then I think we'll be able to appreciate him a little bit more. So let's bring that back. So now you can see that's what he looks like. Oh, I'll talk about the body later, so I can talk about the feet and stuff. But the feet are just supposed to be sort of angled like that, and he's supposed to walk just a little digitigrade, like so. But anyways, we'll get to that in a sec. First, the wings. The wings just poured in, and for the owner, as you watch this, just be careful because the shoulders of these wings end up sitting very close together. So if you want to avoid paint rub, just be a little bit careful about that. But you just sort of pop them into the back. It takes a little bit of force. You got to muscle it a little bit. But the reason why I left it like that and sort of, force you or, to have to push it in and be a little bit rough with it is so that the back can hold the weight of the wings. This isn't like the normal Build-A-Figure where it has that whole little clicky system. I couldn't install that on the body even if I wanted to, I don't think. So I had to end up making just really tight pegs so that the weight of the wings holds still. And now with this guy out here, I'm going to have to pull my camera back, lift it up. This guy's huge. You're going to start seeing the edges of my desk now. Just gigantic wings. In the picture I'll be posting on Instagram, you see the edges of my desk and my bookshelf because the wings are so wide. And I think they just look so glorious on him. Like a full-fledged out vampire. I think I have him in a pose, something like this, where he's sort of reaching out and flying. So that's really cool. And I think these wings were a fun addition because we have the Vlad conversion and now we have like a full-on vampire conversion in there as well. So that's really fun. So I'm going to pop the head off for the head's sake. And then I'm also going to pop the wings off. And then we'll talk about the body and the choices I made for the body. While I pop these off, I'll just start telling you. The body is super insanely detailed under the whole Nosferatu suit. And it's pretty crazy. I was really surprised. So I didn't have to do much sculpting for this body. I did a little bit. The chest looks really bony normally. And so what I ended up doing is filling it in and retexturing it. And so his chest looks a little bit more full and a little less sickly, I suppose. And then coming down here, I added the little loincloth because he's like totally smooth down there. There's not even a skin texturing to it. Like the rest of him is skin textured, but it's just a smooth plastic piece. And it almost looks like he's wearing just like plastic underwear, like a very weird smoothed out underwear. So I was like, that's not going to stand. So I gave him a loincloth for it. For the feet, I feel like this might be the most interesting part, especially since I designed a figure that is forced to use a stand. The reason I did this is, first of all, these feet proportionally are correct. When he's standing, the size of his feet and the width of them makes sense for the height of his body. That was point one. Point two was that I actually measured these feet, also the toes are articulated, and I smoothed out the articulation in them. I smoothed out the little pins in there too. So we have some hidden, sort of hid the little pegs. These are also from the Alien Neomorph, by the way, for anyone who's wondering. But when I measured them, they're actually the same length as the Nosferatu, like, peasant shoes. So, in making sure everything stays proportional and stuff, I was like, these are the perfect feet. So what I ended up doing is I ended up taking hand pegs from Blade. I had some left over, pegging them in there, and then just slotting the feet onto it. And then obviously everything had to get painted and such. But that's why I ended up doing it like that. And also, it makes no sense for him to be flat-footed. First of all, the toes look better like this, but also him flat-footed actually makes him short for the length of his feet, and he looks like he's in clown shoes. And that's the way it is for the original Nosferatu figure, and that's the way it is, or that's the way it would be for these feet. So that's why I ended up opting away from that and making him sort of stand a little digitigrade and a little bit more like a beast. Because first of all, it adds to the intimidation of everything. It also adds to his height, and then it also stays proportional. So those were just some design choices. Normally I tried to mix form and function together. In this case, I chose form over function, but I think overall it looks really, really dope. So you can sort of get a picture of him like this, in his whole scary glory. And I think this Neomorph head looks really, really good on the figure, by the way. It almost reminds me of, I think the movie's called Priest, where they have those like weird half-human, half-smart vampires with no eyes. I think it's the Priest movie that sort of has vampires like that. So I took a little inspiration from there when I was thinking of, an extra head. I didn't want to just stick with the 3 heads that the figure already came with. I wanted to add something extra, so I ended up going with that. So yeah, though, that is the vampire figure. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. I think he looks creepy and perfect, and so I'm very, very happy with that. By the way, the paint job on the body is the same paint job on the heads. It's just a very consistent skin tone. And yeah, that was my process. There's a lot of trial and error with this guy. There's actually still a little bit of paint rub in his right shoulder, and so before I ship him out, I will be fixing that. But yeah, it was definitely interesting working with a Mezco figure who pretty much had no cloth on him whatsoever. Like, he wasn't wearing any clothes anymore. And so just having to deal with some of the Mezco joints, and they're on this weird slidey system. It's pretty much like all these discs that all rotate back and forth with a middle pin through them. And since the middle pin is through the joints, that actually allows them, and then the joints like peg in to actually, so it's like the joint pegs in into the leg on either side. So there's like pegs that go in there. And so then it's the knee, like as its own whole separate piece that runs through there. But the issue with the discs is that whenever you move the legs or the arms or whatever, there's always going to be pressure applied to those discs. It's not like a Marvel Legends where the movement is happening from the sides, if that makes sense. But because there's pegs based into the legs on either side, the movement and the pressure is actually coming from internally on the discs. And so I sanded them down as much as I could without like damaging the skin on the figure and stuff. Or, just trying to keep everything even and look good, and, stay careful with all the parts, especially since the discs are so thin. I didn't want to shave down too much and then they wouldn't function properly. And I could not get the paint rub out for the life of me. And so, yeah, it's just like the skin tone's just slightly uneven because of that. But it's one of those things where there are just internal flaws of the figure. If I could make a figure of my own, I wouldn't have, designed the joints like that. But I mean, on the flip side, normally he's wearing clothes, and normally, I have to say I am generally pleased with Mezco joints. They're very smooth. And I want to also give them props for this single jointed elbow. The single jointed elbows on Nosferatu, first of all, get a little bit more than 90 degrees, and they're also super smooth. Like, the Punisher arm joints are so stiff, and I despise them for that, because I feel like every time I bend the elbow, I'm about to snap his arm in half. The Nosferatu ones are like buttery smooth. And so that's a very cool, I don't know what they did differently, but it's very cool that they did that because it makes, you know, moving and articulate this figure feel a lot safer. And so, yeah, that concludes the review. I hope you guys liked it. I know this is a little bit out of my normal wheelhouse of figures I would make, but I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. I put a lot of time into this guy and I think it shows, and I'm, yeah, just very proud, him in all his little creepy glory. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to see more pictures of him or any of the other customs I make, also I take commissions and stuff on occasion. So if you guys want to stay updated with any of that sort of stuff, check out my Instagram. My handle is Tosh_customs. My Instagram name is in the description of every video. It's also, there's a link in the about section on my channel page. So yeah, find me, follow me if you're interested in just seeing what I'm doing. And, you know, if you guys enjoyed this video or enjoy any of the other videos you see on my channel, if you could, you know, give it a like or subscribe, that's awesome. I don't make any money off of this. This is for fun. But, you know, it's still cool just to have your guys' support and see that, you know, making these videos is still worthwhile. So, yeah, just want to thank everyone for their support and always just appreciate how, you know, how kind you guys are and how, you know, awesome it is that, you know, people care about the stuff I'm doing like this. So, yeah, thank you for watching the video, and I will catch you guys later. Stay safe and take care.